Hello, hello, and welcome to another wonderful episode of the world famous
Lume Plotters podcast.
Yeah.
Yes, with the heavy P's, the Lume Plotters podcast.
Yes, you should just not face your microphone.
Just spit in the microphone as hard as possible.
The plosives are too much.
Yes, that was on purpose. So we have some interesting news today that we're going to discuss. But before we get into the interesting news, what are you wearing today?
Pretty boring. I think same as last week. I'm still wearing my Explorer. It is, I must admit, I haven't worn it for a week. And it's back on my wrist just today. I've worn a couple of other watches. I have worn the Blancpain in between, the Girard-Perregaux, the Laureato. I have worn the Ranger. And yesterday I've worn my Breitling Super Ocean for a change.
Okay, so you've had a very diverse week. I didn't have such a diverse week. I did win my auction. I won my auction for the NIbadan Grenchen Hodinkee limited edition Antarctic GMT. I wore that for about 4 or 5 days, and then I sold it.
No. I mean, wait a second. You sold it. Where to?
Who do you think?
George.
No, George did not like the watch.
Oh, okay.
But I know I sent one message to one person and he bought it. Who could this person have been?
Just Andy? It
is just Andy, yes. So he generally likes smaller watches. So when I told it to him, he said, okay. He usually drives a pretty hard bargain, though. Like the guy,
he does. He
negotiates hard.
I tell you.
So I lost a few hundred dirhams, but it was literally like a few hundred dirhams. So it wasn't the end of the world. But I thought to myself, I could have sold it privately on Chrono24 or something. I could have potentially made a lot more money. However, it's much riskier, right? So for 1,000 extra dirhams, I could have had to ship it somewhere and the guy doesn't like it and he returns it. And it just becomes a big problem.
I agree with you. There's a lot of things that can go wrong, and then it's just so in person, and with that, just going, just handing it over basically or by RMX is so much easier, right?
Yeah. I think
if you know the person,
exactly what he did. He always sends a pickup for Airmax. I give him the box and golden, so he should be receiving it actually today. So
nice.
Let me just kind of walk you guys through why I sold it. Because of course.
Yes, let's start with that because this is now scandalous again. How did this happen?
So I bought the watch. It's a Hodinkee limited edition. You know how much I like Hodinkee, and I really, really want to have a Hodinkee limited edition. Yeah. But the problem is it's never exactly the watch that I want. And I don't know why, but I have this kind of issue. And a lot of people ask why I don't have any micro brands or independents or whatever you want to call them. And one of the reason is if I'm going to spend X amount of money, and it doesn't even have to be that little or that much amount of money. It could be a smaller amount. Like this was, I think, around 4,000 dirhams. I'm not going to if I'm putting this money down, I want to be able to support this brand. Right. And every time I look at my watch, I always think, okay, is this a brand that I like? I enjoy, I want to affiliate with. And the thing is, every time I kept looking down at it, it would say NIbadan Grenchen. I'm like, I don't know anything about NIbadan Grenchen. I feel like almost an imposter wearing this watch. And even though I like Hodinkee still, even despite all their downfall and their issues, NIbadan Grenchen, I never got behind. And then I had a totally separate watch group discussion, and we now I finally started an Elaine watch group. So we have, I think, like 6 whole people in it. So if you are in Elaine, let us know. I'll put you on the watch group.
Yes, contact Martin under the Lume Plotters Instagram. That's in any case handled by him. So
yes,
just send him.
Happy to throw you into our Elaine group.
Yeah.
So essentially one of the guys said he went to the Nevada Grenchen website because he wanted to buy an F77. And he said he's never seen such blatant waste of marketing money as after he left the website. He said Instagram, Facebook, boom, just absolutely bombarded him with Nevada Grenchen ads. And I had the same thing. It's insane how much money they had. He got private on Snapchat, private snaps from Nevada Grenchen showing him advertisements. And he said he didn't even know this was a possibility of advertising is private. Like it's imagine getting a private message with an ad in it. And he's like, this made me feel so unclean. And then he said, I'm not buying a Nevada Grenchen. And I'm like, yeah, I could see how, the amount of money they just poured into marketing is just...
Listen, they have to, because they don't have any retailers that can take care of that to a certain extent. It's only direct, right? And the other thing is, I mean, in this direct to consumer business, you have to be staying on top of mind because people forget you otherwise.
But I haven't seen any like other brands doing this. Like how many Unimatic ads have I seen? Zero. Absolutely zero. And I've gone to their website numerous times. It's a different vibe. And he said you could have spent this money developing something better and making a better product, but instead of doing that, you're wasting it all on this social media advertising. And I do kind of
it feels a bit pushy. It feels a bit pushy.
It feels pushy. So this, he said this, and I was like, oh, it didn't bother me. And then I ended up, selling the watch. And even now, today, I'm getting still Nevada Grenchen ads, even though I sold the watch. How do they not know? But once again, that was one of the things that I just didn't like. I didn't get behind the brand. And the second thing was it still had a date window. And I try to tell myself, if it's a GMT, it has a date window, it's okay. But I've decided not to get anything with a date window. I just like the cleanliness of not having one. So that was my two big things, the name and the date window.
Okay. Well, there's nothing we can do about that, right? I mean,
it's gone now. So nothing. But I, on the other hand, am wearing my JLC Reverso. Ta-da. Which is, I haven't been wearing it too much, but I wore it last week. I wore it this week. So it seems like about a once a week affair for me. And I really
That's
enjoy
not too bad. Not too bad.
Compared to my Pelagos and my Black Bay 54, I wear those in the watch since I've started counting, 7-to-1 ratio.
Wow.
Which is, I seem to really be pushing the two Tudors. And this has made me think, and this was another thing, 4K. 4K is halfway to a Tudor. Am I getting half the enjoyment out of a Nevada Grenchen that I would be out of a Tudor? And I said to myself, absolutely not. No, I'd much rather spend 8K on a Tudor than 4K on a Nevada. And that's my thing, is I think I'm back in the mentality that I want another Pelagos. I want a blue FXD again to go alongside my black Pelagos.
I'm just saying, just wait for a couple of months, at least until the first batch of Tudors, new Tudors for this year, the 100th year anniversary is being released.
Let's see.
Because there might be something interesting coming up. But then again, you would need to pay full price for these new novelties.
Yeah, which
right?
I also, I was at the dealer, and as I said, one of the watches that I would be interested in would be the Blue Lagoon Black Bay 54 for my wife. She wants that one. But I was like standing there and I was like, I could put my name down, but am I going to pay $18K for it? Not really.
Yes.
And I looked on Chrono, and on Chrono, you're already finding them for on 16, 17. And I'm just like, one will pop up in UAE at some point.
Yes. And I mean, look, it's if it starts to be under retail, at retail or under, that means that people who want to flip them will not be able to flip it for profit. That means then some of the hype will die down. So people who buy the watch now new will be people who want to wear it, not flip it. Yeah, which is a good thing.
And that means you have more of a likelihood of getting one under retail. So let's see what happens. I'm in no rush. But I do think I want a blue Pelagos. So.
Okay. Well, there's, and then why not? Why not?
Why not? But,
why not?
And I think 2 Pelagos is fine in a collection.
Yeah, especially because it's a really, it's blue and it's the FXD. So it's different enough. Different. Right. And it has a different bezel.
For those that don't know, by the way, I think we mentioned it before, but yes, it is Tudor's 100th anniversary as of February 16th. So that was just a couple days ago.
That specific date just passed in complete silence.
Nobody did anything. Nobody said anything.
Yeah, well, but I think we will see quite a nice flurry of things coming up in Watches and Wonders. I
did see a few YouTube videos pop up. So I think it was, what's his name? Anachronist, who used to go by something else.
Yeah.
He did a bunch of old, he used to do Seiko mods, and he modded a Tudor. And he said this is the first time he's modding anything of value. So he was a little bit scared, but he replaced the hand, the snowflake hand, with a Rolex Mercedes hand, because he said this is how it should have been. And he replaced the bezel with a red insert bezel with a red triangle. And then, of course, he had to match the Fotina on the hand, because apparently the spindle diameter is the same as for a Seiko. So he was able to use the Mercedes hand that would have modded a Seiko, but he had to match the patina on it. And then he was able to do a ghosted, like a semi-ghosted bezel with bleach. So he took the bezel insert and bleached it. So it was a very nice mod, and I very tastefully done. I liked it. And then the other one, of course, was a Time and Tide did a big thing with Mr. Rolex about
James Dowling. I'm a big fan.
And that was a really cool thing. And I learned something new.
Cool.
So we all know that Tudor uses the snowflake hand. And then, of course, Rolex uses the Mercedes hand. What I didn't know was the difference in production method between the two. So in the Mercedes hand, you have the 3 triangles. Yeah. And essentially they used a dropper, a pipette, and they would drop the luminous material into that, and the surface tension would hold it tight until it dries. Mm-hmm. And the issue is, those were the biggest plots that you could do that trick with. So if you look at the bottom side of the Rolex hand, you could see lume on both sides. Tudor wanted, because the Marine Nationale said they wanted more lume. And so Tudor developed the snowflake hand, and that actually has a piece of paper on the bottom. And then you paint the lume onto that piece of paper. So it's not the actual surface tension that's holding the lume in. There is because
otherwise it would hang or something.
Fall down. Exactly. It would fall through.
Okay.
But I didn't know that. I thought Rolex would have had the same situation where there'd be some small paper or something underneath and you put the lume on top, but there is nothing. It's just
well, if it's not needed, it's not needed. But the thing is, after it dries, you can remove the paper then, I guess, right?
I don't know if they actually remove it or not, how they do it. They didn't mention that afterwards. But for the Rolex one, I did see a video of them making this, and it was so cool. They just put it, and then the surface tension immediately snaps it to the sides of the metal of the hour hand.
But that also explains one thing that I just realized. I'm not so sure if that's universal, but probably it is. That means that in all these watches, the hour hand is very close to the dial, so that you don't see the reflection of the lume
on the bottom side,
on the bottom, or from other hands that are, reflective or so.
Yeah, I guess that would have to be. Yeah. So, but this is also how these lume plots fall out in Rolexes, especially, right? You always see this with the older vintage models that in the Mercedes hour hand, one of the triangles could fall out.
Yeah, interesting.
So, there you have it. You learn something new every day. But yeah, so apparently people were doing some Tudor related stuffs. So
so I was just wanted to see Rolex hand disassembled and then see
the backside of it.
Yeah, but I couldn't find anything yet. Let me see.
So
when
I
show
saw
it from the front, damn.
I don't know where I saw the video though. I don't remember exactly where that was shown, where they were dropping the luminous material, but there was definitely nothing there, and I was very impressed at the physics behind. Somebody had to figure this out. That this was the size of gap that would be perfect for a drop of lume to adhere to.
Well, it's a try and error, and not so.
Yep.
I mean, look, if you work with this every day, it's not a big problem, I think. But to figure that out. But interesting to know that they are just not having this on the bottom. But it does look actually, if you're looking at it, it doesn't look like it, to a certain extent. Or maybe these are in the older ones. It doesn't look like there's.
I don't know. Well, once again, at the time we're talking about the 70s, right? Because snowflake hands came out in like 73 or something around there. So that's the vintage we're talking about in this case.
Right.
So how they do it now, who knows?
Who knows? Okay, so moving on, and Rolex is a big topic for that, is we have found, we got our grubby hands on the Morgan Stanley watch report for 2025. So the entirety of 2025 is being analyzed, and we could have a look. Of course, you've seen a lot of different YouTubers and other people talking about the numbers. Every publication is talking about it, and you will see probably a bit more about it. But what I wanted to talk about, we wanted to talk about, is a bit of our highlights of what we think is important. So I'm throwing the report onto the screen for the both of us to look at. And here I wanted to say, as first of all, the change in rankings, right? And we have seen something dramatic happening, right? I don't know if you consider that the same. I think it's dramatic. I think we have already bashed Omega a few times, right? In the past.
Yeah. The thing is, this is ironic because we just got done bashing Omega for a few episodes.
And now we have numbers to back it up. Strangely enough, with all of these new models that Omega has released, they have managed to sell less.
Yeah.
For a higher price, but yet they have dropped market share. And some people are going as far as saying they are the single biggest market share donor to other brands, meaning
they're giving away the most market share to anyone.
They are losing the market share for others to gain. And that is terrible.
This is the saying that, it's yours to lose. And Omega has definitely taken that and run with it, because in 2019, they were second. So between 2019 and 2025, Rolex has been number one by far, by a huge margin. There's no contest. Omega used to be number two back in 2019. Then it slid in 2020 to number three, and it stood there for about 5 years.
Yeah.
And the fact is, in 2025, and this is, you should sit down for this one. It didn't drop to number three. It didn't even drop to number four. Yeah. It went straight to number 5, which is nuts to think that Omega is now by volume, the 5th most popular brand, Swiss watch brand. That's nuts to think about. So the big winners here were AP and Patek. Both have leapfrogged Omega. Yeah. And that's crazy.
Yeah. There's two more things. I'm going to the other list, the bigger list, where we see the entirety of the top 50. Here we see the revenue, and you see that, of course, Rolex now has broken the 11 billion mark, right? Swiss francs in revenue in 2025. So another 1 billion on top of the 10 that they broke last time, I think. The estimated number of units sold has gone down. So the second year in a row where they're selling less
for
watches.
More money.
obviously. But what they have managed is really astounding, especially because their revenue model is like the entire opposite of what Richard Mille does, right? Richard Mille also is gained a spot, right? They're up now, and they are also up in turnover. Of course, they're in the billionaire club, right? 1.7 billions, and the last one actually in this list, the lowest of the billionaires club of more than 1 billion Swiss francs in revenue.
They're behind Omega. They're number 6 behind Omega.
Yeah. So and they are so close. They are 500 million Swiss francs apart from Omega. Omega sold 460,000 watches, 2.2 million Swiss francs, and Richard Mille sold 6,000 or slightly below 6,000 watches and made 1.75 or 1.8 billion Swiss francs.
And just to compare market share, Rolex has 33% market share.
Yeah.
Omega has 6. Richard Mille has 4. Like, it's crazy to think that Richard Mille is basically almost the same level of market share as Omega.
By revenue, of course. But if you see that an Omega watch is on average retail value without taxes of about 7,000 on average, 7,000 Swiss francs, a Richard Mille is nearly 300,000 plus taxes. Yeah. So that explains a lot. But still, it is crazy. What I've meant with the opposite of Richard Mille and Rolex is their business model, because the share of wholesale is basically is completely reversed. It's one of the highest in the entire industry. It is actually the highest in the industry. 92% of all their sales goes via wholesale, meaning via authorized dealers.
Yeah.
For Richard Mille, it's 0 because they only sell in their own boutiques. And that is shocking. Audemars Piguet has only 10%. 90% of their sales goes via their own boutiques, their own AP houses and all of this stuff. So they're also strongly working on a direct-to-consumer business, basically, with boutiques. Or let's say, not direct-to-consumer, that's a bit different. Exclusive. Well, no wholesale, basically. But yeah, and then two other very important things is the Longines has for the first time in a long time dropped out of the billionaires club. They have now only sold 920 million Swiss francs, so they are not anymore in the billion Swiss franc club. For the first time in many years, they have dropped out. Sad. Even out 800,000, nearly 800,000 watches sold. So I think what else we can see is it's tough. Even Breitling has sold less, 155,000 watches. They recently we read an article about the owners, CVC Capital and somebody else, the private equity owners, who said, Breitling, that wasn't so great. Now please cut costs. So that looks like an interesting time for Breitling, especially since this year they are going to launch Universal Genève and Gallet. So it's not easy when you are even asked to cut costs as well. So let's see where this ends. But yeah, Breitling has done a bit less at a market share of 2%
but
roughly.
If you just take a quick look at Richemont brands, everything with a Richemont brand, Cartier up from last year.
Yeah.
Vacheron was down. That's an exception. IWC and JLC
but
up,
not too much.
Vancouver up. What else? We have
Panerai is down. Piaget and
Lange and Piaget are down. Mont Blanc is down. I keep forgetting about Mont Blanc. Like I keep forgetting that Richemont owns Mont Blanc.
Correct. And then
compare this to so that was about half. I would say about half of Richemont brands are down. Half of them got better.
Roger Dubois still, which we always forget.
But compare this to LVMH. LVMH, Dior went up. Louis Vuitton went up. Bulgari went up. Zenith down.
Louis Vuitton
or Hublot down.
Louis Vuitton is a very special case, I must say, because they went up, but also 0 authorized dealers for the watches, only their own boutiques. But they only sell 12,000 watches. At some stage, they have sold more than 300,000 a year.
Yeah, but those were the old quartz.
The older tambours, yeah, exactly. And ETA movements and all of that stuff. Now that they're doing high horology stuff, 12,000. And they made 165 million. I think that's pretty incredible of what they have done.
I'm looking also at Oris here.
Zenith,
look at how many watches Oris has sold.
I just have to talk about Zenith. Zenith has apparently not made a profit in a long time, so multiple years that Zenith is bleeding. Now 8,500 watches. Yeah, it's
not a lot.
Not looking good. And there was rumors that Zenith is on the chopping block, basically being one of the watches that could be sold by LVMH. So let's see. Bulgari is up, as you said. Hublot is also a bit down. Tag Heuer is down, which is supposed to be the
flagship. Remember, they just spent an absolute boatload of money on Formula One advertising last year. And where did this money go?
Good question. I mean, it didn't end up with too many more watches. I don't know how many more or less they sold compared to the year before, but they are now selling 342,000. Again, these are all estimations. So take all of these numbers with a grain of salt. But yeah, at least they sold 2 times as much as Breitling, but also their estimated retail price is less than half of what Breitling has, which is also surprising.
I don't know. It's very strange.
But seeing what I find fascinating is that Audemars Piguet and Patek Philippe have just basically overtaken Omega, right? Boom.
Yeah.
And then with their numbers, 53 and 72,000. First of all, Patek Philippe, 72,000. That's a lot of watches, right? For Patek, I think. It's crazy to see that. And AP, 53. They were, I think Benyama said last time that they were aiming for 60, right? But I guess they have passed this down. I think we can see that the strategy that Eliana Resta and her team are riding at the moment is correct, is good, is the right one. They're doing everything right. Way less collabs with pop stars, rock stars, rap stars, movies, comics, superheroes. Much less
it's working.
Of that. Yeah, much more haute horlogerie or complications and just focusing on that. And
people have apparently become okay with the 1159, which everyone hated for a long time, and now in retrospect, it's all right.
They're clearly doing a good job of actually also extending their collections. I mean, now we have the new, what is it called? The collection, I forgot the name for it. It's not the remaster. I meant the one with the jump hour, which is now
the new one that just came out. The one that looks like a Whoop band.
A bit, but it looks like an Art Deco watch. And I think with this nice lacquer, or what is it, sapphire crystal backed black stuff. I mean, it just looks, on the pictures, it looks amazing. I really have to try it out in the boutique because I really want to see it in person, because when I saw it on some of the wrist shots, I thought, oh, it's not as good as I thought it would look on wrists, because it seems to be quite big compared to,
I told you this from the moment it came out, when I looked at the numbers.
When you looked at the measurements, yes.
Yeah, I said it was going to be huge. Because once again, it's bigger than the large size of the Reverso, which the large size of the Reverso is already a big boy. Mm-hmm. That's a big watch. So, it's going to be a big watch.
Yeah, interesting. So, yeah, I think this is one of the biggest findings. I mean, Swatch Group, we don't have to talk about this. I don't think there's a single watch Swatch Group brand that went up. Right?
Yeah. It seems so. Let's see. Omega
Swatch
down, Longines down,
Tissot
down, Swatch down, Blancpain down, Rado down, Breguet down, Mido down, Hamilton down, Harry Winston down, Certina down, and Glacé Original down. 100% of Swatch Group brands all slid in their standings, in their rankings from last year.
It is a sad story, and I really think either they should take this whole brand, all of the whole company, the Swatch Group, private, which I think they thought about for a few years now, the Hayek family. And just, because I think for the shareholders, this is horrible. I mean, they haven't seen increase in a long time. It's not good. Bit sad to see Ulysse Nardin and Gérard Perregaux also a bit down. Together, they are selling about 11,000 watches, which is not a lot. So I wish them all the best. I hope they are.
I don't.
I love them.
I don't like either.
Not Ulysse Nardin that much. I mean, this is for me still a brand. I like the Freak, some of the versions of the Freak, right? The cooler, newer versions I like.
I like the Freak, the military-inspired one.
Correct. These ones,
The sand one, yeah.
But what I also wanted to mention is, and this is, I think, some of the big news, actually, for a lot of people who are fans of the brand Christopher Ward. Christopher Ward made it in the top 50. Into the top 50 for the first time ever.
Now, this is a little bit sketchy because this is supposed to be Swiss watch brands,
and they are made in Switzerland.
They are made in Switzerland, but they pride themselves as a British brand,
British design.
Yeah, this is. I don't know how I feel about this because if you look at all the other brands, then again, Glashütte is. How is Glashütte on this list?
They have and Lange & Söhne. Because they have said if the brand is owned by a Swiss conglomerate, they are also listing it. I know it's a bit of a stretch, but that's what they said. That's why Glashütte, owned by the Swatch Group, and Lange & Söhne, owned by Richemont, which is also Swiss-based, is managed. It's same with Louis Vuitton, right? I mean, there's a French brand.
Yeah, but Louis Vuitton makes they're very much Swiss when it comes to their watches. So I'm not.
Same as Christopher Ward. They're not making anything in the UK.
No, they are. They're making their in-house movements are made in the UK. I thought only their Sellita movements or with the Sellita based stuff that they're making is.
Well, they have Swiss made on the dial. So,
do all of them have?
I think so.
I will.
So but my point is, who's not in there? And this is one thing that I think is let's say even if it's a British company, right? I think it's the biggest revenue-making British watch company. Roger Smith, while super expensive, is nowhere near $50 million, I think. Right?
Yeah.
With the 10, 20 watches he sells a year.
How many he sells?
I don't think this is all in the millions, right? Then we have Bremont. Bremont is also making most of their watches now in Switzerland, even though they have sort of some kind of the wing where they do certain stuff. But a lot of their watches, their bread and butter watches, are basically made elsewhere, I guess, outsourced. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I don't think that they make as much revenue as Christopher Ward. I think they're maximum in the 30 million range and not in the 39 million range. So.
And by the way, they are all made. All Christopher Ward watches are made in Switzerland. So,
sorry,
all of the Christopher Ward watches are made in Switzerland. So you were correct about that.
Yeah. And then I think that's one of the big things. The last remaining Kering watch brand is Gucci, right? You know, Kering used to have the Ulysse Nardin and Gérard Perregaux. But they are now only with Gucci, but they have done well. They have increased their revenue. So that's interesting to see. In general, there's not too many. I mean, Louis Vuitton has increased, Chanel has increased, Bulgari has gone up, Tudor has gone up again, now selling way more watches than Breitling, but of course at half the price, roughly. So if you take Rolex and Tudor together, their market share is, where do we see that? 35%. So these two together, if we do a mental arithmetic here, if we think we can take Cartier, Audemars Piguet, Patek Philippe, Omega, we can throw in Richard Mille and Longines and maybe a couple of others, until we get the same amount, all of them combined, we are not even close to Rolex.
Yep.
It is insane. I think how their
how big
market
of a brand Rolex is. Yeah.
Absolutely. Not from just from the numbers. I mean, that's already quite a lot, but from the revenue, right, they make. I mean, it's just insane. And that with a business model that is different to others. And I also said, because before that, it's the share of wholesale is the highest of all the Swiss brands. That is unfortunately false. I didn't go down far enough. There is 100% of wholesale with Jacob and Co. and Rado. I didn't know that actually is a thing. And Gérard Perregaux as well, and the NIbadan 95. So there's a couple that have the same business model, selling only via authorized dealers, but it's much higher than I thought. I think this 8% might be probably a Bucherer, who's not considered wholesale anymore. Mm-hmm. Would that be a correct assumption? I think so, right? They were supposed to make 10%. Well,
now that Bucherer doesn't exist?
Well, it does exist. It just is now owned by Rolex, so it would be considered not anymore wholesale, right? I guess.
So is that why it's down to 92%? Is that what you're saying?
I think so, yeah. Because I know that Rolex operates, I think, one boutique fully themselves in Switzerland, in Geneva. I think it is in Geneva. Yeah, there's one that they actually operate themselves. And some others where they tried to. It was rumored that here in the UAE, they have one boutique, a smaller one, that they're actually operating themselves with the help of Siddiqui, but that's all not public knowledge. And Jan-Frédéric Defour has on Dubai Watch Week said that this business model has proven time and time again, in good times and in bad times, to actually work well for Rolex. And that's why he doesn't see any reason to change it moving forward. Right. So
aside from the fact that, most of the touch points that Rolex has are just absolute garbage. And this is a relatively, global thing that you can go into any Rolex dealer and you can almost be certain that you're going to be treated like garbage. It
depends. It depends, right? Yeah.
On your profile. Yeah.
Because Rolex also makes these blind, what they call mystery customer visits, and they do not like if you're treated like garbage. So they want you to be treated nicely. So I guess if you really treat customers like garbage, it's not necessarily.
I've had so many bad experiences with and only with Rolex. I've never had any such experiences with any other brands anywhere in the world. And this is, once again, if you look at the outliers, what is the outlier on here? That is one of the things. Then again, we could also say that look at Longines. Longines is 90% wholesale, right? I've been to a lot of Longines boutiques, and there I've had very nice times. Remember the time that you and I went to the Longines boutique in Dubai Mall? We sat down and had a very nice time with them.
Absolutely, lovely chat with the sales rep there.
That would have never happened at a Rolex.
And what a knowledgeable sales rep that was as well, right?
Oh, yeah. And we had we looked at lots of watches. Once again, another thing that doesn't happen at the Rolex boutique. And it kills the conversation. It kills the vibe.
Yeah. Yeah, that is very true. So, yeah, I think the concentration is going up by a lot, right? It's one of the things that I find always fascinating, of how much is happening there. Overall, the market went down, especially if you look at volumes. That is scary. Let me see if I find this here in this article of where the just as the turnover. No, here, market dynamics, where you see the value going up over the years here on the left side that you're seeing on this graph, and on the right side you see how the volume, the pieces sold go down. And that is, and this is here with the value on the left side, I think. You see that the watches with a value of, what does it cost? What does CAGR mean? I think this is a cost average of goods produced. I don't know. Anyway,
retailed?
I don't know what it means. I have to Google it. I have to Google what that means. CAGR means compound annual growth rate. Okay.
No, we were
compounded annual growth rate. It's completely, next to it. Okay, so that's going down. Close. Compounded -3%, while the volume goes up 3% over the last 17 years.
Yeah. So, which is I funny that it's exactly 3% up for value and 3% down for units.
But there you see it. I mean, it's like we have so much, we have more watches. I mean, but we are still not on the same level as 2023, where we had 25.5 billion Swiss francs in sales. Mm-hmm. But now we have 24.4. So 1.1 billion less than 2023 in 2025. However, we have now from 17, million watches, 17 million watches in 2023, we are now down to 14.6. But more expensive. So, and as Mike from This Watch, That Watch said, the air is thinner on the higher end. So if everybody tries to go higher and higher, higher end, and there is a limited amount of people in the higher end buying. And we see this with a lot of watch brands trying to compete with the high end, even Tag Heuer. You know, we saw this when they are launching these super new cases, tourbillon watches, these Rattrapantes, and a lot of these different models for tens of thousands of dollars, these watches. Mm-hmm. Does it make sense? I mean, of course, one of these watches sold will get your average sales volume up by quite a lot, right? Average sales, average watch price. If you sell 100 watches with for $1,000, and then you sell one watch for $100,000, then the average is, you doubled the average price of the watches just with one watch, which means it makes sense for them to have some expensive watches, but do they actually sell? Do they find people to buy them? Who knows? Who knows? And not everybody can be high end, right? So that's the next problem there.
But everybody seems to be striving to be. But we did end up throwing in all of this stuff into ChatGPT. Yeah, and asking it, what does it think?
But before we do that, just let's look at the biggest losers percentage-wise. And here we see Panerai being the biggest loser of selling 31% less turnover-based than the year before. Mm-hmm. And that is shocking because I didn't think they had bad releases, maybe just more of the same, but they haven't increased their prices too much. I thought it was actually quite okay, but Blancpain minus 16%. Frank Müller, 18%. Then the rest is mostly Swatch Group brands, minus 18% Longines, minus 8% Omega, minus 15 Swatch, minus what we have 16 Blancpain, then we have Rado minus 14. It's a slaughter fest, right? And then you see the few ones that actually went up are, of course, our top 5, basically, except Omega. Mm-hmm. It's a sad story here. Let's go what we actually asked ChatGPT of. What are the highlights, right?
What does it think the highlights are, and what does it think the kind of the newsworthy titles within this document?
And so, actually, it wasn't ChatGPT, but it was a different AI, but it's okay.
Same but different.
AI, exactly. And so they said basically the shrinking but a richer market. So from 2011, the volume of watches sold is 51% lower than the peak in 2011. So apparently in 2011, the Swiss watch industry nearly sold 30 million pieces of watches, right? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And now we are exactly at half of that, 14.6. But the retail market value is
still the same
at an all-time high. So it's you can say what you want. It seems to work, moving upwards with lower pieces, so a lower amount, lower volume. What else did it find? The dominance of the big four and the profit gap, which I think it's quite telling. They're saying the top 4 brands control now 55% of the total market.
Mm-hmm. And out of that, once again, 55% is this top four, but
35
Rolex is 33% of that. So it's kind of stupid to phrase it this way. I would have just said Rolex is 33%. But yes, if you add the top four, 55% market share.
416 Swiss watch brands, apparently, altogether.
And this is four.
We are looking at the top 50, but these are the top four having 55% of the money in their pocket. And then they said that they're all privately owned, all four of them, Rolex, Patek, AP, and Richard Mille. Well, four largest, we have Cartier, which is part of Richemont, which is number 2. So we are not counting Cartier in that part, just the top private ones, right? And they seem to have, they're making nearly 80% of the profit. And he said here, despite just 4 of the approximately 450 active Swiss watch brands. Okay, they're still saying it was 450. Okay, so who knows? Rolex, again, juggernaut, moves on, sells less watches, has reduced capacity a bit, even though they are still building up their new production lines and production factories. Let's see what they're doing with it, because I mean, look, they have decided to spend a few $1 billion in having additional production sites in Bulle, I don't know how to pronounce this, where they want to produce a lot of watches going forward, more watches. They wanted to increase their capacity to at least 1.5 million, right? If not more. Question, will they still do it? Or will they do harder to produce watches? I have a feeling we will see Rolex going more into the Patek and Audemars Piguet range of higher end watches that take a longer time to produce. I could be wrong, but this is not from AI. This is my prediction. And what else do we have?
The Omega decline. We know that Longines is no longer in the billionaires club. That's
correct. Then ultra premium. Okay, that's also something that is shocking. It says here there's a 50K threshold. Watches priced above 50,000 Swiss francs represented only 1.4% of the units, but 90% of the market growth. So that means that's where the growth happens, in the extreme high end of Swiss watch brands.
Yep.
Every watch counted under 50,000 Swiss francs has only contributed 10% of the growth, which is also the ultra wealthy are buying watches.
China not doing hot. Another thing.
Yeah.
US
number one.
Hot.
Yeah. Still the number one export market. Yeah. What to say? Privately owned brands are winning. Listed or group brands are not doing so well, except some, right? It looks like Richemont is focusing more on jewelry moving forward and has already said, because the profit margins are better. So Cartier, Van Cleef & Arpels, Bulgari, all of these brands that also have jewelry, Louis Vuitton also have jewelry, might just be the ones that they keep, while the single watch brands like Zenith and Hublot and others might be sold eventually. Who knows? There's rumors that JLC is on the chopping block after Baume & Mercier's. Not chopping block. It's being sold because, again, Richemont does the same thing. Selling brands that are just singular watch brands, except maybe the high end like Vacheron Constantin and Alain & Söhne and stuff.
I always think that they need the JLC there to make movements for their other brands.
Which other brands are using JLC movements?
So we know that Vacheron is still using JLC movements. We know that.
Which one?
What the 222, the first 222 had a Vacheron, had a what's it called, as well as the Royal Oak in the AP. But AP
the first one, but not the current one.
They said that the new movement in the 222 is still based on the original JLC movement,
but not made by JLC. So the point is it's based on it because the patents run out. Anyways, I think it's like that's not a problem. And even if you sell it, then you put it in the sales agreement that you still supply whatever X amount of years the movement if you wanted to.
Yeah,
but
that's
the
a good
only
question.
not the,
Who
the
is
only
who is using JLC movement still?
I'm sure there are a few, but I'm not actively knowing about anybody, to be honest.
Yeah,
I think there's some
right,
jewelry.
because Cartier, for instance, is using Piaget movements. We know that.
Yeah.
Anyway, who knows?
So, so I think JLC would also benefit from it. I mean, I think the new CEO, that's the rumor, right, wants to take the brand private with some investors. And that could be good for JLC, right? But who knows? Christopher Ward and fashion houses seem to be, Louis Vuitton, Hermes, and Chanel are trying to get more and more into the horology game, and they have the legitimacy, according to our AI. Christopher Ward became the first mid-range independent in the top 50. Fantastic. I mean, you can like them or not like them, but it's a big achievement, I guess. Apparently, Rolex's CPO has made a lot of revenue. Watches of Switzerland is now making it's the second largest revenue channel for Watches of Switzerland is now the CPO program, which I find fascinating. I didn't think that would be that much, but well, it seems to work for them. And then what they're saying, what the rest one is a limited circle of winners, they're saying, and there's a long tail of niche brands right away, right? So, right. So that's what AI thinks as takeaways. I think here the executive summary from the let me change that over to that other one. The executive summary for what the report said was, of course, all of what we already mentioned, market leaders, Cartier again, how they really increased their watches. And you know what? We always say how terrible it is for Montblanc because they have such a wide spread of offerings. Pretty cheap watches and super expensive ones. Pretty basic ones and the super Minerva watches and all of this stuff. But Cartier has the same system. They're selling basic quartz watches and they're selling super high-end jewelry pieces. And for them, it works. It shows that somewhat, and they're even part of the same group, right? I mean, Montblanc makes some of the pens for Cartier. They sell a lot of pens too at Cartier. So it is weird to see how that all, one brand, it works, for the other brand, it doesn't, or not as well, right? Yeah. Then IWC, I'm a bit disappointed with IWC. I feel I haven't heard enough in the last year about them. Do you think, well, how about you?
Not much has happened, right? So they once in a while come out with new stuff, but yeah. It's
just...
But I think most of the Richemont brands in general, aside from Cartier, have taken a kind of backseat almost. Cartier went nuts in popularity, and then IWC, Panerai specifically, these two have kind of shifted into nothingness. If you look at secondhand prices on Panerais, there was, in the last Timepiece 360 auction, there was like 10 of them, and they were all around 10,000 dirhams. And to think that, a 10,000 dirham Panerai, that's a ridiculously good bargain, because these watches were 30K roughly.
30, 40. Yeah. Retail. So, absolutely.
So it's such a big change. I don't know. Cartier doesn't seem to have this issue. IWC's tank with their value as well. So I think Panerai and IWC both are sharing this problem. They make a lot of big watches, and big watches are not in fashion right now. So therefore, that could be the reason why these two are not doing so well.
So I just recently heard somebody say big watches will eventually also come back into fashion, and big and flashy watches. So now my question is, do I really believe this? In a world where in a lot of places you cannot wear big and flashy watches because they're drawing too much attention. Is it really something that will come back?
I don't know. I think honestly, there's a lot of people that buy watches that don't wear them, but they still like the watch and they still will buy the watch. And for that specific demographic, I think big watches will come back because we know that everything is cyclical, right? Small watches went out of fashion for big watches. Now small watches came back, and now afterwards, big watches will be back again. And I think this will cycle through infinite times. So yes, even though you can't really wear a big and flashy watch, I do think people are buying big and flashy watches. And I think they will wear it to extremely, hoity-toity dinners and stuff like this, where they know that nothing is going to happen and they're totally safe in those areas. And they're not going to be wearing them to walk down the street in New York, probably, but they will wear them indoors.
Yeah. I think it's, what do you think about smartwatches? Here, it says here that the incremental impact diminishes, saying that Apple has probably sold 15% more in 2025, but in the last 2 years before they had contracted a bit, minus 21 apparently in the last 2 years, and now they have managed to sell 15% more. They still make a lot of revenue with their watches, right? I mean, Apple probably makes as much revenue as the Swiss watch industry, more or less, just with their watches and their accessories for watches. But still, they're saying like the Ultra 3 is the most expensive, I think, one of them. And this is now on the same level to entry-level Swiss luxury models like the Tissot PRX. Do we have an
Ultra 3? Is Ultra 3 even out yet?
Yeah. It came last year.
Did it? I missed it. Shows you how much I care.
I still have my Ultra 1. Which I wear less and less. Even I used to do sleep tracking, but even that I don't do anymore. It's I think it goes in circles.
Yeah, I think so. I still have mine is the Apple Watch, the stainless steel one that I have is a Series 5 or 6, super old. I don't even know what series we're on now, but nonetheless, I only wear it for the alarm function. So. Right. I do enjoy having the little tap, tap, tap alarm on my wrist. It's nice.
I think it's the most reliable alarm clock you can have.
Yeah. And it doesn't disturb the person next to you. Correct. That's the big issue.
Fantastic. It's so good about that. One last thing that we have to mention, and I think that we can let the listeners go. It's the question that they asked here in this report is, at number 16, is there a credible high-end threat from outside Switzerland? Who could that be? Obviously, more German brands. Is Sinn now suddenly killing it and replacing Omega? Guess not. But they basically meant Japan and India.
But they did state that Grand Seiko is the most credible non-Swiss challenger to the Swiss market.
Yeah.
Which I like. Again, I like the fact that
they're saying that they have, sorry.
No, I like the fact that they mentioned this, right? That they actually believe that it's a credible non-Swiss challenger.
Yeah, they say it would be on the number 27 in this top 50 list if it would be ranked, with about 50,000 units sold last year and a revenue of about 210 Swiss francs, 210
Which is
million
fantastic,
Swiss francs.
Because we always asked, where would Grand Seiko fall? And they told us this time.
Yeah. And so technically that could be considered a serious contender. And then in India, of course, we have a watch brand that sells many millions of watches, Titan, right, which is part of the Tata Group. And they have recently also started to make their own manufacturing mechanical watches or watch movements. Some of them are in license, some of them are in collaborations, but they're starting to do this, right? They are selling half a billion Swiss francs in watches, right? Overall, Titan. So that also puts them in the top, 20 or so, top 15, I guess even. But mostly they are quartz watches, right? Millions of them. And mechanical watches are a very small part yet of the Titan Indian market at the moment, or the production. But again, also there is something happening, and they have this enormous home market to fall back on, right? So they can use this as a springboard. So let's see what happens. Let's see if there's any other good insights that we could see. I guess not. Tudor had a flattish here. You still there?
Yeah.
So flattish here for Tudor.
Yes, but I think we've put all of our listeners to sleep already. So I think this is nice.
Yeah, we have the top iconic Swiss watches. It takes decades to establish an iconic watch. And according to, I have no idea how they actually created this, but basically they're saying the Cartier Santos was launched 122 years ago, and it's still being produced, which is shocking. So the youngest watch in this list of iconic watches is the Tambour from Louis Vuitton with 24 years. And then there is the Santos, the Tank, the Reverso, the Calatrava. And these are just not brands, obviously, these are models, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Calatrava, Datejust, Seamaster, Luminor, Navitimer, 74 years old, the Navitimer. Constellation, 50 Fathoms, Explorer, Submariner. There's a lot of Rolex, GMT Master, Milgauss, Speedmaster, Omega, Air King. That's just, Seamaster, Constellation, and Speedmaster, DeVille. Basically, the big collections that are still there, right, from Swatch Group. Then we have the Air King, then we have a Tag Heuer, the Carrera, the Daytona, the Sea Dweller, the El Primero, 57 years, the Monaco, the Royal Oak Nautilus. See, Royal Oak and Nautilus actually pretty youngish, right, compared to the Calatrava, nearly 100 years.
Yeah. Anywho.
Then,
all right. I think we call it a day.
Yeah.
On all these numbers and statistics, because.
Yeah. But it's a treasure trove. And seeing of how many boutiques they have, like Patek Philippe, and where they have their boutiques, right? It's interesting. That point of sales and all of this stuff. We can dabble into this, and if you're talking about sales and secondary markets and whatever.
You can Google and find this document yourself, ladies and gentlemen. So you can take a look at it yourself as well.
Snippets of it, right? So yeah, but let's see, because it's not public; it's a paid-for report. So this is not something you can just get. Anyhow. We are at the end of our analysis, and we think, what do we think? How does it go on? 2026?
I think Omega, my takeaway is Omega needs to figure itself out, because it is not looking good.
But we say this for many years now. We always say this, and we say this from a place of love.
This will be the year. This will be 2026.
Please get your, pull yourselves out on the bootstraps or whatever. Just get going. You have all of this stuff you need. You have Blancpain, you have Breguet, you have all of these fantastic, even Jacquet d'Aube, whatever, right? You could make so many things out of these brands if you wanted to. Omega itself. And yet you're sitting there and it just doesn't seem to work, whatever they try. They just need to do better.
Exactly.
We want them to succeed.
We do. But the thing is, everything they've done has been not a successful move. So
I agree.
Anyway, on that bombshell, it's time for us to end. We will hear you, listen to you. You will hear us next week.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.